You can use long division to divide decimals and then determine where your decimal point goes by using estimation. Let's look at this situation. You go to the candy store and buy 3 2/10 pounds of gummy bears. The total cost of the gummy bears is $12.16. How much do the gummy bears cost per pound? Well, the first thing I want to do is write an expression that tells me what my problem is that I'm trying to solve. I know that the total cost of the gummy bears was $12.16. And I know that I bought 3 2/10 pounds of gummy bears. So I'm going to take my total cost and divide it by the number of pounds to figure out the cost per pound. Well, let's make an estimate here. $12.16 is close to $12, and 3 2/10 pounds is close to 3. So if I were to do $12 divided by 3 pounds, I would see that my cost per pound is going to be about $4. Now, to use long division, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our problem. And I'm going to pretend that I don't have any decimals in this problem. So my $12.16, I'm going to write it as if it's a whole number. And then my 3 2/10 pounds, again, I'm going to write it without the decimal point. We're not going to worry about the decimal point until we get to the very end when we need to put it in our answer. So if I were to do this long division problem, 1 cannot be divided by 32. 12 cannot be divided by 32. 121 can be divided by 32. And I'm going to think that if I had 30 and 121, I'm going to think that's going to go in about 3 times. Now to double check it, I can come over here and do this multiplication. And I see that 32 times 3 is 96. So 3 times 32 will give me 96. And I'm going to subtract. And when I subtract, I'll regroup this and I'll get a 5. And then I have 11 take away 9 is 2. And the next thing I need to do is bring down the 6. So now I want to know how many times can 256 be divided by 32? Well, if I'm going to guess 32 times 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24, and 1 is 25. So that actually does go in perfectly. And I'll subtract, and I get 0. Now, if you look up at your quotient, it says 38. So when I think about my question, how much do the gummy bears cost per pound, does $38 make sense? It doesn't. And the reason it doesn't is we forgot our decimal point. Now look at our estimate. Our estimate says our answer is going to be about $4. So let's take this 38 and figure out where can I put a decimal point to make an answer that's about $4. If I put my decimal here, that's an answer that's less than 1. And if I put my answer here, that is 38, which is a lot more than 4. So I can see that my decimal point has to go right here. 3 8/10 is very close to 4. Now if I want to make this an amount of money, 3 8/10 doesn't work. I need to think about how many dollars and how many cents would I have. And I know that 3 8/10 is the same as 3 80/100, which means it costs $3.80 for the gummy bears. Okay, I estimated my answer would be close to 4, so the decimal has to go between the 3 and the 8 to make the quotient 3 8/10. So I can tell that the gummy bears cost $3.80 per pound. Let's look at another problem. It took Jaden 46 50/100 of a minute to run 6 2/10 miles. If he ran at the same pace, how long did it take Jaden to run each mile? Again, let's start with our expression here. We're going to take our total time, 46 50/100, and we're going to divide that by the number of miles he ran, which is 6 2/10. Now, if I want to estimate my answer here, I want to look for compatible numbers. I want a number that's close to 46 that I'm going to be able to divide by 6, because when I look at this, I know that this is going to round to 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and I'm going to think, okay, 46 is really close to 48. So if he ran if it took him 48 minutes to run 6 miles, then that means it would take him about 8 minutes per mile. Now let's do our division. And remember, when we do this division, we're going to pretend that we don't have any decimal points. We're going to just do our long division as if these were whole numbers. And then we'll put our decimal point in the problem once we get to the end. So again, can 40 be divided by 62? Can 46 be divided by 62? No. Can 465? And the answer is yes. 465 can be divided by 62. Now if this were 60 and I put an 8 up here, 8 times 60 is 480, so that's too big. So the first guess I'm going to make is that this is going to go in 7 times. And I'll do my work off to the side here just to double check. And what I see is 62 times 7 is 434. So that is perfect. So I'm going to write that down here, and then I'm going to do my subtraction. 5 take away 4 is 1. 6 take away 3 is 3. 4 take away 4 is 0. My next step is to bring down this 0. And now I have 310. 310 divided by 62. Again, if this were 60, that would go in about 5 times. So let's try 62 times 5 and see what we get. 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31. And that's perfect. So I do my subtraction. I get 0. There's nothing left to bring down. So again, let's look at our estimate. Our answer should be close to 8 minutes. When I look at my quotient up here, it says 75, and that's because we're missing our decimal. So what we need to do is figure out where can I put my decimal to figure out how to make this close to 8. If I put it here, it's too small, it's less than 1. If I put it here, it's too big, it's 75. So my decimal point is going to go right here in the middle. 7.5 is close to 8. And if I look, I say my estimated answer would be close to 8. So the decimal has to go between the 7 and the 5 to make the quotient 7.5, 7 and 5 tenths. So Jaden ran each mile in 7 and 5 tenths of a minute.